Jungkook stood against the wall, and his eyes never moved off his wife. He lost track of time. It had been hours. She didn't move an inch, taking his every ability to move as well. If not the slow movement of her chest heaving up and down, he might fear if she was even alive or not. It had been 2 days she was like this. His 2 days of utmost pleads proved nothing. "2 days since she ended up in a hospital. Once her foot slipped and she hurt her belly in the fall. She was pregnant and faced the tragedy of having a miscarriage. If only she could avoid hitting the corner of the marble counter with her belly, maybe her child would be safe and be with her today. It was her 7th month. There was no limit to the excitement Jungkook and Wine had as they counted every day till the delivery date. They had bought clothes for the child an extreme amount which wouldn't end for 3 years, even if the baby never worn the same clothes again. A whole room was set for him, along with a great amount of toys and everything needed for the newborn. Just a little mistake, and everything slipped away from them. Jungkook didn't only lose his child, he lost his wife as well, which he was determined to bring back. But every passing second had him in a chokehold. It was getting harder and harder for him to breathe. The more he looked at her condition, the more he felt desperate and helpless. He leant off the wall and decided to try again. He was going to keep trying. He was never giving up. He was not even expecting her to recover now. All he wanted was her to at least eat something. Ryan, he called her, taking a seat in front of her. No reaction, not even a blink of an eye. She stared at the distance like she was doing for the past 2 days. Minus the fact that she was breathing, you could compare her with the dead and would find no difference. It was like she lost her tendency to move or hear anything. Jungkook questioned if she even knew what was happening around her. He was seated beside her as he leaned down so half of his body hovered above her, his one hand on the other side of her, supporting his weight, and he kissed the corner of her eye before proceeding to kiss her forehead. His lips lingered there for some seconds. "Jungkook, I need you to look at me. Just once. Just once." His voice broke, and he had no idea how long he'll be able to keep himself sane. He couldn't lose her. He would die. He would legit die. "Jungkook, I love you, and I need you to live. I need you to look at me before I go insane. I need you to listen to me, and I need you to tell me that you can hear me." He held her hand and rested his head against hers. "Jungkook, I know you love me the same as I love you. We'll make more kids. We'll have as many kids as you want." "Jungkook, as long as you're alright, and as long as I'm alright, we'll have our beautiful family before you even know it." Jungkook, do you remember? He got no reaction, but it was never going to break his confidence. Before we married, you once told me you saw a dream, walking on the beach and a huge print of steps beside yours, which were mine. Jungkook, but there were these tiny steps in between both of us. It'll be real. I promise you that you need to push yourself for it. No matter how tragic the situation was, he smiled. He smiled when he saw her eyes flickering, a reaction after 2 days, and he wanted to jump if he could. Jungkook, but there's a problem. One pair of tiny footprints shouldn't be enough. How about four pair? Two in between us, one on your side and one on mine. What do you say? That's more beautiful, right? She shifted her eyes and he moved up. Their eyes met, and he wished he could just cry. No one would understand, but he lost one family member and was near to lose the other only family he was left with. Wine. What day is it? Her voice was so low, hardly audible. Jungkook. Friday. He helped her drink some water, now that she was finally back in her senses. He stayed there, half over above her, as close as he could be. Jungkook. I spent 2 days without you. Wine. Look at me. Have some mercy on me. Her eyes teared up and she slowly held his hand, her fingers hardly wrapping around his or holding its weight. She was extremely weak after not eating for 2 days. Wine. I kept him in me for 7 months and I couldn't even get to see how he looked like. I couldn't hold him. I wanted to see his eyes, his smile, his cries. I wanted that moment when he wraps his fingers around mine. Jungkook brushed his fingers through her hair. He wiped her tears as they kept rolling down. But he never complained once. He would wipe them away anyways. Jungkook, put yourself in my place and imagine me in yours. You'd want for your wife to be safe, to be alive. You would tell her that you both are going to have more babies. You might have lost a child, but you would want to focus on the ones who are still alive. Jungkook, you and me. I'll make sure you'll be able to hold your child, play with him, grow him up. Then he'll annoy you, and you would scream at me that if he doesn't stop annoying me, I'll kill you, John. Vine smiled at that. Her eyes sparkled. He was a father, a parent, who lost a child, but maybe he could never understand the pain of the mother who held the baby in her for 7 months. Vine, then I would throw pillows at you. Jungkook, mind you, you have thrown much harsher things at me than a pillow in the past. That damn lipstick you threw once left a scar on my cheek for 3 weeks. Ryan, you deserved it. Jungkook, for forgetting your favorite burger? That was wild. Now that he mentioned it, she could remember it clearly. She never meant to hit his face, but how even after his cheek bled, he never once complained or said a word to her. Jungkook, you need to eat. Burger? She nodded and asked the maid to bring the food, staying beside her the whole time. Jungkook fed her with some soup before they proceeded to a burger, which Wine loved so much. He tied her hair in a loose braid, and now she was sitting on bed while her weight was leaning against Jungkook, who sat beside her. His arms were wrapped around her. Wine, are not four babies way too much? Jungkook, you heard that? Wine, yes. The four pair of footprints, two in the middle, one beside yours and one beside mine. Jungkook, do you want more? I'm okay with any number. Wine, you're a pervert, nothing less. He smiled and kissed her neck. He was glad. She started to respond eagerly. Those 2 days went in hell, but he knew they both will be able to move on soon. Jungkook, yeah, like I was a pervert for touching your makeup too? Wine, oh, that was a joke. Jungkook, like this one. Yes, it's okay. I appreciate jokes. Wine, this one is not a joke. You look like you're ready to build a soccer team. She pinched his hand. Jungkook, that's a clear accusation because I can make more than that. Don't you ever underestimate my energy. She pushed him. She was still weak, her push barely moving him an inch. Getting free from his arms, she laid down, and Jungkook held her hand, kissing it. Jungkook, okay, I was just kidding. He lay down as well and moved her in his warm embrace. From that day onwards, he only focused on her recovery. The more days passed by, the more she returned to life, and the more they were becoming positive on having another baby. As long as they were together, every problem could be overcome, as long as they held each other's hand.